Hello, everyone. I am Brady Bridges, and I'm the broker and owner of Reside Real Estate here in Fort Worth, Texas. I want to welcome you to another episode of Real Talk with Reside Real Estate. We are a top producing team here in Fort Worth, Texas, and we want this podcast to be a resource for anyone looking to learn more about real estate and the great city of Fort Worth. Today, I'm joined by Luke Shivers. Luke grew up just outside of Tyler, Texas, in the small town of White House. He moved to Fort Worth in 2007, where he attended TCU. And in 2012, Luke started his journey in investment real estate by becoming a realtor and helping other investors find, fix, and flip and rental properties. 5 years later, he decided to start flipping houses with his brother Josh. They created a company called Bald Brothers Buy Homes because they are both bald. Since then, the Bald Brothers have helped over 100 sellers. So Luke, thanks for coming on and tell me a little bit about what you guys do.
Sure. Thank you for having me. The intro kind of says it all there. I started out directly out of college and obviously had no money out of college. So I just became a investment realtor and worked with other investors and helped them find properties. And then once I was able to save up some money, I bought two rentals first, actually. And then when my brother decided to get out of the restaurant game, we created a company and we wanted to kind of make it funny and lighthearted. And we were both bald. So I came up with the Bald Brothers Buy Homes in the shower one night. And we've been doing that ever since 2017. So going on 5 years now. And right now we mainly just flip properties and, look for houses that need a lot of work.
Yeah. So I think the name's great. It's catchy. People remember it. If you
Makes them laugh.
Ever get a jingle going, it could be great. So one of the reasons I wanted to bring you on is because you obviously are an asset to us and you offer solutions that we can't offer our clients here doing traditional style real estate. And you and I have known each other a long time. We've helped each other out in a lot of different ways. So how did that work? How did you get started? Because obviously it wasn't traditional real estate like what we do, helping buyers and sellers. So where did you start when you did get your license? How did that look for you to become an investor and to learn, what you're doing now?
I think it was mainly I didn't have any desire to be a traditional realtor. I don't know why. I enjoyed construction. My brother and I actually purchased a house with an FHA loan from the HUD Home store, right out of college. So, and we had to do the rehab on it ourselves because again, we had no money. So I enjoyed the rehab process. I enjoyed fixing it up and using my hands to do that. And that's when I realized that, okay, I kind of like construction and I liked rehab. So I was either going to go try to work for a contractor and be a project manager or try to start to flip houses. But the financing was the hard part with the flipping the houses. So
your natural desire was always on, you never had the desire to sell homes. You liked getting your hands dirty and being involved in the whole process from start to finish.
Correct. Yes. And then I ran across a buddy of mine who was a realtor, but he only worked with investors and, he kind of got me into that, side of the industry, I guess. And I worked doing that for 5 years until I eventually saved up money and was able to, start doing, flip houses on my own. So
would you consider yourself what we call a wholesaler, or are you more of an investor? What do you guys kind of define your box in real estate?
We do both. We wholesale as well, but that is not what our end game is. I would prefer to try to buy and actually close on and flip every single house that I can. The reality is, A, I don't have all the money to do that, and B, sometimes the sellers owe more than, what we can pay, or they just need more money for a specific reason. At that point in time, I do my best to still help that seller out. There may be somebody out there that can pay more than me. Maybe somebody can buy it as a rental. Sometimes we are the highest offer, but if we're not, I'll do my best to still help that seller and get the house sold for them. And it's a win-win for everybody.
So with everything that's happened in the past 2 or 3 years, the market's been exploding. Was that hard on you guys to find deals?
Yes. It was hard to, when the market
maybe I shouldn't say deals, opportunities to help sellers and also for you guys to find a good flip.
Correct. It was very hard to find a good flip. The hardest part for us was timing the market, I guess, because we all know if you bought a house, today, 4 months later, that house seemed to be worth $20,000 or $30,000 more than it was today. So it took us a little bit to realize that. And once we did, we were able to buy a few, but we were running numbers off of what's the house worth today? What can I sell it today for? And making the offer where other investors were pretty much saying, what's the house worth today? And then adding 20 grand to it. And then
just building it in.
Building it in, right? So, but if you were to run those numbers on what that house was worth, today or at that point in time, you might have been breaking even, but with the anticipation that the market's going to go up 20 or 30,000 bucks, and then you'll get your profit on the back end. So, as a mom and pop shop, it's very difficult. It was very difficult for us to start looking at it that way, knowing that if you timed the market wrong, like some investors did, and we have on a couple of flips where, in March, in June, July of this past year, it kind of started to switch, and houses were worth less now than what they were worth in March, April, May, June. So all investors got caught on houses that they bought and did that on and didn't sell till September, October, November of this past year.
Yeah, it's definitely changed significantly from the way things were. So I know for us, we see you as a partner in a lot of ways, because we do have sellers sometimes that it doesn't work for them to go on the market. One, either they don't have the money, or it's just in disrepair, or they can't move the stuff out. So where do you see you guys? What would you tell realtor partners that you're looking to work with? Like, what do you guys do to help them take care of these clients who do need help but don't have the ability to get anything out? I mean, how do y'all help them?
So I would say 75% of the houses we buy are from what I'll call our realtor partners or other real estate agents. You've probably I'm sure you've got our voicemails before.
Oh, yeah.
When we do our marketing, and we get a lot of calls back, and a lot of them don't work, but some of them work. But the main thing that we provide to realtors are when a lot of sellers don't want to list it. The house is in really bad condition, and they don't want to do the repairs and updates needed to get it list ready.
Do you prefer the homes to be in worse shape?
100%. Yeah.
Okay.
They're really, really bad. We don't like,
yeah.
But, generally speaking, the worse, the better for us. And as an investor, and I think any investor should be this way, when a realtor reaches out to us, they are our client, and their sellers are our client, not on paper, not, in the traditional sense, but as an investor, my job is to make it as easy as possible on that realtor to sell the house, and make it as easy as possible on that seller to get rid of that house. And in return, the seller and realtor understand that they may trade some equity in that house in order to get the ease of selling it. Kind of no difference than a convenience store. You go pay.
Yeah, it's if you want it. Do you want it fast? Do you want it cheap? I mean,
right.
What do you need here? So, no, I think it's a great thing to have people that do what you do. I know that sometimes it gets a bad rap in the industry of people, flippers people think they come in and try to just take advantage, when I don't feel like, especially a lot of the people we work with, like you, who come in and actually try to bring solutions to the sellers to make it easy for them, because a lot of times these people, in my experience, they may not have the money to go buy something else, so they may need time, and you guys have always worked with them on that. So I think that's a big part of what you guys do, is helping people. So, typically in a real estate deal with us, if it's a loan product that the buyer's having to use, it takes 30 to 45 days. Is y'all's closing time different? I mean, can y'all close faster? What does the timeline look like for a deal from start to finish look like?
Sure. Yes, we can definitely close faster. I tell people we pay cash or cash-like money. Cash-like money would be a private loan from just a regular individual that's just wiring money, right? It's in his bank account. So obviously those guys they say, hey, when do you need the money? And we can close as soon as title work is ready. We use a hard money lender who typically can close as fast as 3 days. So they're essentially like a private money lender as well.
And that doesn't affect the seller at all. That's just how
none of that affects it. None of the stuff that we do. There is no appraisal contingency. There is no inspection contingency. It is just we're getting money from somebody else as opposed to money in our bank account. And the reason we do that is so we can leverage our money in our bank account to do multiple at a time.
Sure.
So, but yeah, as quick as 3 days. We've pushed closing out, 30, 45 days before, but that's only because if the seller needs that time.
Sure.
When we contract a house, we prefer to close it in a week and get the work started and get moving. So
if you get one, like deal closes, how long does it take you guys to get a flip done?
Depending on the rehab, obviously, is a big factor in that. But generally speaking, I would say about 4 months.
Okay.
Usually it's 6 to 8 weeks to rehab it. We usually budget 30 days on the market, and then 30 days to close.
Yeah.
So it's about 4 months.
And on our blog here, when I post this, we'll post some of their projects that they've done because they do some good work, guys.
We try to.
So how do you come up with a price? So if I bring you a deal, we're doing one right now, but how do you come up with a value? Because obviously it's not going to be like resale real estate. A lot of these houses are in really rough shape. How do you guys determine? Do you have like a set formula you use to determine cost, or what do y'all do?
So there's a couple of different things. One thing that a lot of realtors do look at is as-is value. But as investors, we don't look at the as-is value. It's a different formula. So
you tell me all the time how you're like, no, man, that's not going to work.
So it's different. So, a formula that we do use that a lot of investors use is, I call it the 80% rule. So we look at what is a house worth. If you send me a deal, okay, the first thing I want to do is get on the MLS, pull up the tax records, get all the info from the tax records. And then I'm going to pull comps on that property. And when I pull comps, I'm looking at houses that are in similar beds and baths, similar square footage, but that are completely fixed up. Okay. And
so you work backwards.
I work backwards. Okay. Correct. So I don't look at the as-is value at all. And I'll say, okay, so if I make, your house that you sent me look like those houses, I can get $200,000 for it, completely fixed up, right? And then I take 80% of that number, which would be $160,000. And then let's say the house needed $60,000 in repairs. You subtract that out from the 160.
And that gives you your spread to make it worth taking on the project.
Because we usually when we go resell the property, we have the same expenses that anybody else would have whenever they resell the property. We are realtors, so we don't have to pay a commission to a listing agent, right?
Sure.
But we still have to pay the 3% to the buyer's agent. We still have to pay a title policy. And long story short, when we add up all of our expenses, my brother and I call that our overhead. It usually comes out between 10 and 12%.
Okay.
So the reason we deduct 20% is if let's say it's 10% in that specific scenario, then we make a 10% net profit.
I feel like you have to be pretty analytical on the numbers when you get into these projects, because I'm sure, that's kind of my next question. How often does the flip go exactly as you plan?
Never. We have never done a rehab on budget. Never, ever.
Well, I'm sure you tear down one wall and there's the next problem, right?
There's termites behind it. The one house we did over in Ryan Place years ago.
Those would be hard to get now.
I think our rehab budget was 80 and we ended up spending like 140. But
some sleepless nights there.
we ripped down a wall and our contractor called and he goes, "You won't believe this. I don't know how they built this house this way, but we were removing like 5 walls or something because it was really awkward." And he was like, "Every single wall is load bearing. Every wall."
Oh, man.
So he was like, "I only budgeted one wall, to be load bearing. I thought these other walls were not." and they ended up being load bearing. So he took some of that cost, but he's like, I can't eat all that cost. So weird things like that happen that, you just don't know till you open up walls and get into it, or you rip up carpet and there's 5 other carpets underneath it, or you rip up the carpet and there's engineered wood underneath the carpet and you got to rip up the wood. So a question I get asked all the time, obviously, that I help a lot of people build rental portfolios. I'm kind of on the opposite side. What I like. What I get asked all the time about people who want to do what you're doing. Like, hey, I want to find a cheap house that's in bad shape. What do you tell those people? Because I say, if you don't know what you're doing, you need to stay away. Yeah. Because you can lose a lot of money. And I know there are some people in the wholesale world, which isn't really what you do, but they take advantage of people sometimes. So what advice would you give people that do want to try to start doing flips or maybe even wholesaling? So for the flip stuff, I think you can get yourself in trouble, not really knowing what your strategy is, like what's your end game, because as you know, in investment real estate, you have rental property, like everybody, there's 100 ways to skin a cat, right? So like, what's a deal to me?
You hate my deals.
I don't think, you have a different strategy than what I have, and in 20 years, I may be looking back and was like, man, I should have done what Brady did. I'm an idiot, right? So, and in 20 years, you may be saying the same thing about what I did. I mean, and there's 100 different ways. Hedge funds look at deals differently.
That's the coolest thing about real estate. There's so many different ways to do it.
But you know what your numbers are. You know what your end game was. You know exactly what you wanted. When people come out and say, hey, I just want a rental property. Well, you and I know you can go on the MLS and buy a house in a day, right? But, are you looking for a cash on cash return? Are you doing the appreciation play? Are you running off of a cap rate? Just pick whatever you deem to be a deal. Stick with that. Go look for houses that meet what you want. And that's your strategy. Don't worry about what Luke thinks. Don't worry about what Brady thinks.
And I tell people don't get emotional. If it's your first investment property, people get really emotional on my side of the business because it's their personal home. And then they want to buy their first rental. I'm like, you got to look at it totally different. If it doesn't work out, we can move to the next one. Don't chase a deal.
100%. Yeah, there's going to be a deal out there. And especially if you have a regular job and you don't need a rental property to pay your bills, like take your time. A deal will come around. Like when the market was hot and houses were going for $30K over asking, a bunch of people wanted to get into real estate. Oh, the market's really, really good. And I'm like, exactly. Now's not a time to get into it. Just wait until we're in the market that we're in now.
Well, Luke, man, I really appreciate you coming on. This was another episode of Reside, Real Talk with Reside. If people want to get in touch with you or learn more, how can they get a hold of you?
Give me a call. I can get on my cell phone, 817-965-5019. Or you can, email me at luke@gameplanrealty.com. I'd love to work with y'all.
And you need to change that to the Ball Brothers.
I know I will. That's another thing. I wish I had Luke at ballbrothersbuyhomes.com, but 5 years ago, I wasn't thinking 5 years ahead. So,
all right. Thanks everybody for listening. Thanks again, Luke.